In 1917, Congress set the U.S. debt limit to $11.5 billion to speed up war financing. It has been raised 78 times since. The number today is $39 trillion. That is $117,000 for every single American alive.
The official narrative says this debt is a crisis. Politicians campaign on it. Economists warn about it. But here is the contradiction. America has never defaulted. Not once in 250 years. Not during the Civil War, not during the Great Depression, not during 2008. A country $39 trillion in debt that has never missed a single payment. How? By the end of this video, you will understand the exact mechanism that makes this possible, and why understanding it reveals something more important than the debt itself. In the last 12 months, your grocery bill went up approximately 18%. Your rent, if you are renting, went up between 8 and 22%, depending on where you live. Your savings account earned 4%. Inflation ran at 6 to 7%. That gap, that quiet, invisible gap, is not bad luck. It is not mismanagement. This is not an accident. This is a system. And this video is about how it works. The United States government spends more than it collects in taxes every year. The difference is called the deficit. To cover the deficit, the Treasury sells bonds, government IOUs, to investors. Those investors receive interest payments. The debt is the sum of all those outstanding IOUs. That is the official explanation, and it is accurate. What it does not explain is why the number keeps growing without consequence. The debt is unsustainable. Eventually, we run out of money. This sounds logical. It is also the wrong mental model. Because the United States does not operate like a household. A household cannot print money. A sovereign currency issuer can. That single distinction changes everything. But if printing money solves debt, why doesn't every country do it? Some have. We know how that ends. The system that keeps America solvent is not willpower. It is not fiscal discipline. It is the Bretton Woods architecture and what replaced it in 1971. In 1944, 44 nations met in New Hampshire and agreed to a deal. All currencies would be pegged to the US dollar. The US dollar would be pegged to gold. This made the dollar the world's reserve currency, the universal unit of trade. Oil is priced in dollars. Commodities are priced in dollars. International debt is denominated in dollars. In 1971, Nixon ended dollar-gold convertibility. The Bretton Woods peg collapsed, but the dollar's reserve status did not. Here is why that matters for the debt. Global demand for dollars is structurally built into the world economy. Every country that trades oil needs dollars. Every country that services international debt needs dollars. This creates a permanent structural buyer for US Treasuries, which is how the government borrows. Here is the number that changes everything. Foreign governments and central banks currently hold $7.6 trillion in US Treasury bonds. That is 7.6 trillion reasons owned by the people who could trigger a default, not to trigger one. This is never discussed
because it inverts the power relationship. America is not at the mercy of its creditors. Its creditors are structurally dependent on America not failing. But structural dependency is not the same as permanent dependency, and there is one country actively trying to change it. The mechanism that keeps America solvent extracts a cost. That cost is not paid by the government. It is paid by holders of US dollars. This is the Cantillon Effect, named after Richard Cantillon, an 18th century economist who identified it 300 years ago. Cantillon Effect. When new money enters a system, it does not distribute evenly. It benefits whoever is closest to the source of new money first. In 2020 and 2021, the Federal Reserve created $4.8 trillion in new money. That money entered the economy through financial institutions, banks, asset managers, primary dealers. Asset prices inflated. Housing prices rose 43% in 24 months. By the time that money reached wages, it had already been diluted by inflation. This is why your rent went up. This is why your savings lost purchasing power. Not because of bad luck, because of where you sit in the flow of money creation. The $39 trillion debt is sustainable for the system. The cost of that sustainability is distributed to everyone who holds dollars and does not own appreciating assets. The question is not whether this continues. The question is what changes it, and what happens when it does. The $39 trillion debt will not cause a sudden collapse. The mechanism is more gradual and more deliberate than a collapse. What it produces is a slow redistribution. Assets, housing, equities, commodities appreciate because new money flows there first. Wages and savings depreciate in real terms because inflation arrives there last. The insight is not that the system is broken. The insight is that it is working exactly as its architecture produces. Understanding that architecture is the only way to position yourself within it clearly. The viewers who understand the Cantillon effect do not panic about the debt. They understand it as a structural feature, one that rewards proximity to asset ownership and punishes passive saving. The debt has been $39 trillion for months now. It will be $42 trillion within 3 years, $50 trillion within a decade. And if the reserve currency architecture holds, America will still not default. The mechanism is not magic. It is not fraud. It is design.